talk a little bit about syntax errors or errors in the actual statements. So most of us make mistakes when we're typing. You've heard us talk about an IDE or an integrated development environment, and those are really helpful when you're trying to decide what you did wrong. So it's like a word processor for programming. It helps you correct typos, it keeps a copy of your work, it changes your code to a form that can be executed to the device, so we call that compiling or verifying, and it also transports the executable code to your lily pad. So Arduino, the software that we're using, is integrated because it combines several functions: verification, editing help, transferring. But it's easy to make mistakes. So here, when I try to do the verification, a line is highlighted and it says, my LED is not defined in this scope. And you're going, what does that mean? Well, when you study it, you're going, well, oh, I called it red LED and then I used my LED. And the verification system is trying to tell you, hey, you missed something. And so you can just notice which line is in error, right? So we saw this line highlighted. But if you actually read the error messages, it's going to be more helpful in the long run. And so the compiler is spending considerable effort trying to tell you what you did wrong. But that's not easy, right? So if you're a poor golfer and somebody's watching you and they're going, oh, I can tell immediately what you did wrong, or I don't know what you're doing. Your ball's just going crazy, but it's not really working. So let's look at what Arduino tries to do to help you understand your mistakes. So you're going to notice that you see a red highlighted line that contains the error. You're going to see an error message, and we'll see if we can figure some out. So here's an example here. The message says expecting semicolon before void, and it highlights this line. And you're going, a semicolon before void? Well, actually, it's back up to here, saying that you forgot the semicolon at the end of that line. Well, it just didn't know you had a problem until it got along further. Here's another example, and it's yelling, and here I'm showing you the actual message. It says, print line was not declared in this scope. And that's not easy to understand what they're saying, but it shows the line it doesn't like, and it says you didn't declare it inside here. I don't know what print line is. And you're going, oh, it should have been serial dot print line. Just print line isn't defined. So it's just trying to help you best it can, but sometimes it doesn't know what you've done wrong. It's easier if you know what mistake you've made. So sometimes you should just play around, make a mistake that you know is a mistake, and see how it tells you. That can be really helpful. So the other thing you can have is a logic error. So the compiler, the verifier, is not going to complain, but it still doesn't give you what you want. Sometimes people say, oh, this device is just crazy, but normally it's something that we did wrong. So let me give you an example of a logic error. So the program compiles and uploads, but it never blinks. So if you study this, can you see what's wrong? There's not a problem with the code itself in terms of how we form the statements, but they just don't do what we want them to. Notice here that I've set it to high, delayed, and then I set it to high again. So I never set it to low, and therefore I'm having problems. So that's an example of a logic error. So you can have errors in the statements themselves. They're not formed properly. You can have problems uploading the code to your device because it can't find it or it's not turned on. And you can have problems where it just doesn't do what you want it to do because the logic behind your statements is wrong.